And now I am very glad to announce the last panel discussion and be the moderator in this discussion. And I am very, very glad about this panel discussion. This panel discussion is going to be dedicated on innovative ways how participatory budget can be implemented in pilot projects and on a wider scale. And today I have invited 3 speakers. The first one is going to be Dmitrijs Zverevs, Head of Youth Division at Department of Education, Culture and Sports at Riga City Council. Then we have Laila Gercāne, who is the Head of the Development and Planning Department at Vidzeme Planning Region, as well as Agnija Birule, Advocacy and Project Manager at Transparent International Dalna. And every speaker has elaborated either a concept or a way how to think about PB on a wider scale, how we can approach it more innovatively. In the next 35-40 minutes, we will speak about innovative ways how to approach this phenomenon. Now let us talk or listen to Dmitrijs how PB goes together with youth. Dmitri, the floor is yours. Thank you. Thank you. I will try also to come up with some of my slides in order to visualize. Today, we've mostly talked about conventional participation projects aimed at municipality where this format is very strict, which is also stipulated by the law, but actually principles that are rooted in PB are quite simple. And we believe those principles can be integrated in many areas. Also on our daily work and daily activities, even if we do not call a participatory budget, even if we use some parts of it. And although we have implemented a project that Ilona Stalidzāne spoke about a year ago, we were invited to join UPAT project, and it is a project, Youth Participatory Budgets Empowering Young People Using Big Data. I don't know whether this is a good title, but it's the title. How we can use PB principles to promote work with young people and develop work with young people. So our project is already up and running for 10 months. The first results are there. It is still possible to join for those municipalities who want to join the project. What is the aim of the project? It's quite wide. First of all, it is to inform young people to acquire their participation and strengthen their participation. We have 10 participating countries, Latvia, Cyprus, and many other countries. That's why we look at those different practices that we already have, but we are trying to elaborate one specific methodology that any interested person could adopt for his or her needs. Of course, we have to inform people, we have to explain those principles to decision makers, and I'm going to talk about that. What has been done already? This is a recipe or a guidebook where we have summarized everything that is happening. These stories are going to be published From Latvia is going to be Dalna project and Riga PB projects, as well as other stories from Klaipēda and other countries. But what we have in front of you is what is innovative. Innovative moment we are trying to put together classic work with young people and co-creation together with the technologies and data acquisition, data pooling, as well as sociology. And this tool that we are elaborating, and very shortly it is going to be approved, and it is you can calculate on online platform with the help of which one could survey people, young people, or everyone on different topics. There are 13 blocks of questions, and depending on what primary interest blocks you choose, following questions are there. And if usually we, when talking with young people, focus on leisure activities, on education, on sports, here the approach is the contrary. Here we look also at things that are around young people, and it is connected with the quality of life of young people, their mobility, also climate issues, health issues, urban planning, urban spaces. And with this calculator, we acquire information on problematic issues, problematic for a great number of people. Answers are accumulated not in one common list, but people could make separate surveys, and by getting data also from this calculator, you can get geographic data. In Riga, for example, you can talk about certain regions, not looking at overall picture, but it will, this tool is going to be publicly available and everyone will be able to use it. And the most innovative is what is happening next. When this data is acquired and when many people have expressed their worries, what they would want to see in their municipalities being changed, then those data somehow gets into blocks, and young people, like groups of people or bees, beehives, use this data and develop and implement some ideas. The same logics as usual PB, namely that there is an initiative that comes from inhabitants, but here underneath we have a very planned out, very thorough process showing what are the needs. First, people acquire PB skills, as well as skills how to manage projects. Of course, there are many people are involved. And they can, but they can get help from experts, a better methodology on presentation of ideas and on taking decisions, as well as later on acquisition of financial allocations, etc. This is why I said it is good that I'm talking right now, that this calculator and methodology of UPAD-Bs is up and running, and we will approve it next month. In April, we will have a training on this methodology. Of course, the biggest part of people who would participate, those would be local trainings. There will be people from Riga, but we, of course, would be glad to allocate places to interested people from other municipalities. So if you are interested, then
būs arī plašāka, teiksim, informācija.
There will be more information available in October in the framework of the Baltic City Association. Those associations that are members of this body, they'll also receive information via other channels, but we also plan to have a concluding conference where we will tell about each stage in more detail. That was very briefly about the idea and the concept. These are my contact details. So if you want to test this in practice, please don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you, Dmitrijs. Since we have already started the topic of youth participation, I propose that we should give an opportunity to present a Delna pilot project. Agnija will tell how pupils in various Latvian schools have implemented this method. Thank you. I will share my presentation. Hope that you can see. Yes. Hello, everyone. Thank you for invitation to participate in this discussion with regards to participatory budgeting. As an organization, we have worked with the youth for several years, and in particular with participatory budgeting, I think we have worked for 2 to 3 years. Unfortunately, no, the slides move ahead. So we started the pilot project in 2020. And why did we do this? Because we wanted to increase the awareness about how pupils can participate in decision making, what it means, what is the procedure. And we wanted to start this education with schools and with local governments. And in the long term, we wanted to discuss with pupils what it means to have participatory budgeting, how decision making takes place, how monitoring takes place. And then we can apply this knowledge to more global aspects and encourage the youth to monitor more what takes place in their municipalities. We started this pilot project in 2020. We had only 6 schools, and the age group was from 12 to 18. At the beginning, we were not sure that maybe 12 is too not that much, but then later we were actually very happy because the age group 12 to 16 had the most interest, had the most ideas, and were able to share and be proud about their ideas. So the pilot project was really successful in 2020, and then we continued the idea. And thanks to the financial support of the Embassy of Germany, we were able to involve 23 schools. And here you can see these bulbs. And the bulbs are the places where the schools are located. As you see, there were schools from Riga, also schools from various regions. Why did we do this? For us, it was important to explain what it means to make decisions, what it means to monitor the progress of an idea, implementation of an idea, how the allocated financing is used, because we wanted to give the youth an opportunity just to try. And this process actually involved a specific budget that the school allocated. And usually it was around 1,000 euros. And that was the starting point. during which, when the youth started generating their ideas. And after that, we had the voting. And during this period, everyone could vote, not only pupils or specific class, but also various age groups, including teachers and also the other staff of the school. And after the voting, the youth could monitor how the winning project is implemented. They could also share information about project, about the implementation, about its progress, that it is interesting and fun and so on. This is very important because the project demonstrated that it teaches the youth to take responsibility, to think about what is important for them, and how to tell to others that what is important to them could be also important to someone else. When the youth thought about their ideas and generated these ideas in a creative way, they learned how to compile these ideas in presentations and present to wider audiences. At the same time, they also learned how to decide on the use of budgetary resources, because there could be many ideas, and they had to decide which is the most important idea for them. Also, it is very important that participatory budgeting competition ended, but this was not the end of the project, because the youth kept monitoring how this idea is implemented, how money is spent. Let's say, for example, whether the lamps are installed in the schoolyard or not. I would also like to add that after the completion of the project, we carried out a survey, and we asked the teachers and the pupils what they liked, what was the strengths and weaknesses and positive aspects. And one thing that the teachers said, that at the beginning, when €1,000 were given to the youth, they had grand ideas, but when they started to break them down, they understood that, let's say, if they want to install some stands or to dig something, then they realize that they have to think about this idea in a wider context. It's just not about purchasing specific things. You need a person who do that, you need maybe equipment, you need other works. So for them, they realized that complex approach is needed, and when they started putting together the estimate, they understood how much is actually needed to be environmentally responsible, and the pupils were really appreciated that the school gave this money, that they are perceived as really like adult enough, grown up enough for them to decide on how this money can be used. Here you can see a picture from Talsi school, which was one of the schools, 23 schools that participated in the project. So they implemented this idea about gardens in the alley leading to the school. Everyone is happy, not only because the idea won and was implemented, but also when they were invited to share their idea and their implementation in social media and elsewhere. Their voices were heard much louder. The administration of the school heard them, the local businesses heard, who even installed some additional lamps. And I can also mention Gulbene idea on the sorting of waste. It was number 3 in the voting in the voting results, so it could not be implemented, but the idea was shared. And the local companies that actually deals with waste sorting services, offers waste sorting services. They found out about this idea, and they actually provided sorting equipment. And thus, the overall result was very positive, and the youth were really inspired, and they understood that if they really want something, if they think about that, they learn to calculate how that may cost and what they need, and they are actually focusing on this goal, and they realize that their ideas can be implemented. And even if they don't win in the voting session, if they share this idea and if they keep developing these ideas, that someone else can hear their voice and help them implement these ideas. And at the end of the project, we prepared this small booklet on participatory budgeting in schools. It just explains what this notion is, what are the principles that should be applied if the school wants to implement something like this. There are also positive case studies, maybe some ideas, explanation of difficulties that schools faced. If you click on the link, you can see this booklet, or you can check our website for additional information. And this project actually demonstrated that when the youth will be given this opportunity to participate in the life of the local municipality from the age of 16, I think this age threshold is the right choice, because already from the age of 12, children were very active. And this is just the beginning that should be continued. Probably it could be part of the optional studies at schools. During the project, this idea usually was supervised, or its implementation was supervised by the school teacher of economics or social studies or someone else, and they actually found this a very good example of civic education. Thank you, Agnija. Thank you, Dmitrijs. I wanted to quickly summarize what you outlined and what our guests from Estonia and from Iceland underlined, that it is very important to engage the youth early. You, Agnija, spoke about 12-year-olds, which were very active, or Robert from Iceland mentioned that even 5-year-olds were involved. We don't expect an estimate, of course, from them, but for them to realize that they are involved, it is very, very valuable. Also at municipal level. And also participation planning is very important, for example, in the area of culture. And now I would like to give the floor to Laila Gercāne from Vidzeme planning region, who will tell us about how to adopt a wider view, not only of the participatory budget and its planning, but also how we can use these voting systems, these voting approaches in a much wider context. The floor goes to you. So, I'm sharing the screen. Am I? Yes, but you need to activate the slideshow. So, do you see? Okay. Thank you. Thank you to organizers for giving me this opportunity to share with the experience of Vidzeme planning region in using elements of participatory budgeting. And I would like to add to the previous speakers by saying that probably we have like quite a uniform view of how participatory budgeting processes can take place in municipalities. Of course, in light of the new law on local governments. But still, I would like to say, to reiterate what the previous speakers said, this process, participatory budgeting process, can be used as a part of a wider process, or you can use just some elements of the participatory budgeting process, both at the level of local parishes or level of regions or even national level. And I believe our country is small enough population-wise for us to organize many processes via this participatory budgeting, so that we could solve these things, these aspects also at the national level. And I would really like to invite people not to focus just on infrastructure and improvements, because it would be worthwhile thinking about other issues like social issues, for example, or transportation or mobility issues, as well as environmental issues. This range can be very extensive, very wide. So in each bodies and each level can use participatory budgeting to solve various issues and maybe improve specific areas. I would really like to invite to use this opportunity as something wider. In particular, in our planning region, in 2019, we started this process. And why did we do that? First and foremost, one of our priorities, what concerns our strategic development, is strengthening the natural and cultural heritage and also increasing the civic participation or improving the civic participation in our region. I have to say that participatory budgeting process is not an end to itself, it's just a means to achieve specific goals. And our goal was to improve these cultural processes. Thus, we try to use this tool to implement our culture program. Briefly, this involves implementation of Vidzeme culture program. It is something that is financed from the Cultural Capital Fund. It is for cultural and historic regions. Every year we participate in a project competition, and we have always been granted the right to implement the regional culture program in our region. And so we use this financing as a basis to organize further project competitions, to invite various bodies, companies, societies, foundations, etc., to submit their applications to receive financing for their projects. The goal of the program is to ensure balanced universal availability of cultural processes in Vidzeme region. And we eventually saw that the same people, the same bodies participate in the program. They have decoded how it works and they just kept writing applications. And we understood that this program does not really reflect anymore the needs of the local inhabitants, and it serves more for these bodies, for these organizations. So we realized that we need a platform so that we could involve people, so that we would understand their needs. And these projects would serve the needs of people and not the needs of bodies or organizations. This was one of the reasons. And the second reason was that these projects did not develop anymore. Of course, they're not bad, but they were not of outstanding quality. So we wanted to see new ideas, new offers, new proposals, something new, how to solve the dilemma of increasing the diversity of culture. So we chose participatory budgeting as one of the ways to solve this problem. And the course of this process was, or this process as such, was quite traditional. Participatory budgeting can even start than discussed today, because we just spoke about this elements that we asked to submit project ideas and then we vote on them, but it is possible to involve the public even earlier than that. Let's say once they vote for this part of the budget, or basically how much money we are ready to allocate to participatory budgeting procedures. Unfortunately, we didn't manage to implement it. We started right away with preparing the dossier for the for the voting process or the procedure for this process, which is of course an important step for all the participating parties, including the public, to understand this process. That's why I'm quite concerned what concerns the sample procedure that is currently being prepared, because I would not like this process to be over-regulated. Because as you heard from municipalities who have started earlier, like Riga or Gercāne, they have monitored this process, they have valued and revalued this process, and they have changed this procedure depending on the response of the public, what they demand, what they request, what customers say, what users say. Thus, I would like to avoid this very strict, uniform sample procedure for the entire country, because it has to be very flexible, and organizers, municipalities and national bodies should be flexible, depending on the results of evaluation of previous procedures. And we have also developed an IT platform for the people to be able to vote, so that these applications would be made public. We had quite an extensive publicity campaign, including training, seminars, co-creation workshops. We also had an information hotline that was available. There was quite a lot of investment. If you haven't organized the participatory budgeting process, I have to say that with one person will not be enough. Yes, we have done the work formally, but as soon as it becomes practical, in particular during the project preparation stage, a lot of contribution will be needed. Both the consultant who answers emails, who answers phone calls, that person will have to do a lot, but also everyone else who works in the municipality will have to get engaged, like social workers, architects, and so on. So basically, a wide range of professionals will have to be involved. Of course, then the voting took place. Unfortunately, I didn't tell about stage 4, because we had a public voting on cultural priorities. So we basically gave this general framework, and we asked the people. We just informed, this year we expect project applications, and we want to ask you how to improve the cultural processes in Vidzeme. We also explained that we will not grant financing to everyone, but we invited the public to vote on which aspects of culture they would like to focus, like on youth engagement, or inviting world-class performers to Vidzeme. What would be the most important thing, according to the public, that is required to improve these processes? And then, depending on these results, we prepared the competition for specific, expecting to receive specific applications. And then, of course, there was a public voting, which was not binding. And then the experts also evaluated their submissions. And then eventually the projects were implemented. What concerns public voting on priorities in the area of culture, in 2021, 1,000 people voted, not on specific projects, but on priorities that we would have to focus on during this particular year. So what we need to implement during that particular year? Electronic voting. And unfortunately, we lost quite many people, because in this way we cannot reach older age groups, and this is an obstacle. Of course, you can optimize electronic approaches, and you can ensure better outreach, but there are still groups that you will never be able to reach in this way. We also have a a homepage with a map where we can see how active each of these places are. The projects had to be submitted electronically. They were automatically filled in and automatically sent to a specific site. There was a uniform approach to applications. Basically, there was a form. On this website, you could also monitor the progress of projects, whether they have been approved, not approved, how many votes have been cast in favor, and what concerns results. We had to process mega numbers of projects. As you see, it's 182 and 144 projects respectively, which is a lot. We supported 54 and 47 projects. We can see also global impact. In 2022, this sector was quite tired of the COVID pandemic and also its consequences, because these events had to take place remotely and so on. And we can see that very well what concerns the scope and the value of submitted projects. Conclusions and recommendations. Something that we could share. We already heard this several times, basically raising the visibility, improving the visibility of these tools. It is very important how we inform the people about this opportunity, how clear is this message, how well it can be understood, how we approach various people from various age groups, how they read and understand this message. But at the same time, this is also a very good tool how we can raise awareness in the public about this cultural program, how we could encourage discussion, because there were very diverging opinions on the publicity, on the openness of this process, to what extent we can disclose the details of applicants, maybe of projects. There were this encouraged very fruitful and sometimes not so fruitful discussions, but it still allowed us to make some conclusions and maybe slightly modify our approach, maybe to explain specific aspects. Also transparency and reliability. I have to say that quality of project applications significantly improved, because as soon as it becomes public and everyone can read instead of just a few assessors, the quality improves significantly. Of course, we have to think about resources. As I mentioned, we really have to be careful to see if we will have enough resources to serve all of these clients, to serve all of these projects. Communication, we have to, in a targeted manner, we have to analyze which genders, which age groups are not approached. Because so far we still haven't found a solution how to approach men. Because most participants in voting on priorities and on projects are women. But I see that we are not the only ones who suffer from this problem. We have to find a way how to approach men so that their voice would also be heard. And then, of course, IT solutions. We saw wonderful examples how IT solutions really help to save resources, how to structure your work, how to that it helps to prepare summaries, to understand what works, what doesn't work, to analyze. We have to find solutions, how we will interact with people who don't have sufficient digital skills, how we will involve them. And eventually, or at the end, I would like to say that we analyzed our processes to great extent. We also analyze experiences from other countries, global experiences. I would be happy to share our resources, both online, like manuals that are available online. Unfortunately, it's in English, but there are also communication guidelines that we have really focused on, and we have invested a lot of effort in preparing these guidelines that can really be used practically. If you intend to organize public participation processes in what concerns budgeting, what can I say? I think that we have to develop a process that in the municipal context, this process can help municipalities to identify problems that need to be solved, because it's not always that the municipality can immediately identify these problems, because there is a limited number of resources, but the public has, in this regard, has a much more, as many more resources, so we can solve these maybe efficiency problems with this tool, and we can also find solutions, because the innovations, there is solutions that is offered by the public, because with this fresh eye was through the prism of their knowledge of, because the public is not something that is static. There are many experts in many areas in the public, and if we use this resource, we can eventually arrive at much more efficient and customer-friendly solutions. Thank you.
Prezentāciju, un kā jau es teicu, man bija tas gods un prieks atklāt prezentāciju. Man arī ir liels prieks.
Thank you very much for your presentations. After all the presentations, thank you very much, Laila, Dmitrijs, and Agnija. Thank you for your examples, and thank you for drawing our attention to other issues more than spatial planning, etc. And now some words of summary and conclusion. What we've heard, what we can take along from the conference, and what we can do further. First of all, as we've heard, we have resources, how and where to take from, and until 25 and even before, many municipalities can use PB. We should learn from others. We've heard from 3 municipalities. Those are not the only ones. We have mapped about 10 municipalities, and we recommend you to call them, to learn from them, and learn from your peers, learn from other successes and mistakes, not from your own foreign experience. Why not to look at Estonia or Iceland, but not only. In whole of Europe, there are more than 4,000 cases of PB. We can learn from the experience of others and take over. We in Latvia, in 4 years, from a concept idea, from innovative idea how citizens can participate, have gone to a law or legislation. Next question, is PB a solution, a panacea? In every case, no, it is a tool that can help us, to address wider participation, or you can materialize a certain project with the help of the residents, of people, of community. And the last one, what I wanted to say, you have to talk to your people, to the end users, to people who have been involved in the process. And final point, PB is something that should be elaborated over and over. It's not something you will make and word once and then use forever. You should analyze your experience and learn from your own experience. And the last point, in innovation and experiment. Although we have a clear regulation, but there are very small things that we can experiment with, how we can implement PB on different levels in different ways. We should experiment as far as the law allows us doing that. But let's start with something small, and I believe many small and larger ideas will appear, develop, and materialize. Thank you very much. During the day, there have been many from the beginning and many who have stayed until the very end. Many things depend on us. We are here to answer your questions. Contact us if you need. Let us meet on other events and on other projects. May you have very good weekend. Goodbye.